Frank, can you put this on the table, please?
Where? Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
I don't know if they're ready, but I'm ready.
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you very much. First and foremost, me llamo Gabriel Friedman. And let's get cracking. All right, so we'll start with favorite foods. Did we talk about this recently?
No.
Yeah. Being that you've been here 3 days, like probably not in the past 3 days. All right, what's your favorite food? Favorite food ever?
Burrito.
That's a good taco.
Taco? You know him?
A lot of hot sauce.
No, he said it earlier.
And what's yours? What do you mean? What do you mean?
No, he was just comparing it to love. It's not the same, no.
Oh. Burritos are love.
No, I was.
I don't care. Yeah, all right, what do you got? I'm kidding, yeah? What do you got?
Toss up between cheesecake and chicken fingers.
Wow.
Saw this one.
What do you got?
Sweet and
It's a
savory.
Persian dish called dolma. It's like a stuffed grape leaf.
Dolme?
Yeah.
Dolme. Favorite food
Wish I
you've
could answer
ever
that.
eaten?
I wish I could answer that.
But
I cannot.
why?
Because there's probably just so many.
You're taking a whole
Give me 4.
He's gonna
Oy
type.
vey, oy, oh.
A real Jew here. Oy vey.
Oy vey.
What do you say?
How about alright, okay. I like, what do I like?
All right, we'll come back. Yeah, what do you... What?
Same boat.
Don't same boat it. Come on.
I like healthy vegetarian dishes.
Yeah, me too. We're just gonna keep going.
All right, healthy vegetarian. Yeah. What?
Lasagna.
Yeah.
Lasagna. Okay, what do you got?
Pizza.
Pizza.
Sushi.
Which type?
What do you mean?
Spicy salmon.
Japanese. Yeah, spicy salmon's good.
You like
Dragon
Japanese type.
rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what do you like?
The best.
I like pasta.
What did you say? Pizza? Pasta? Pizza?
I do like cilantro too.
Chicken?
Cheese.
Chicken what?
Chicken Kiev.
Chicken Kiev?
Oh,
What does that mean?
It's like
cheese inside.
Chicken with like
With cheese?
Butter.
With cheese? Butter? Yes! Okay, what do you like? What's yours? Give it to me. Lifeguard.
Thank God he's telling the truth.
Now we're talking, yeah?
Like a nice medium rare piece of Kobe beef.
Kobe beef? Is that like a Japanese beef that you die if it's cooked wrong?
There's ones they massage it.
Yeah.
Massage the cow. Mm. What do you got?
We're talking food right
Favorite food? We haven't picked up on it
That's
yet.
chicken vindaloo.
What does that mean?
Indian, just like a spicy curry Indian food.
Everyone's getting into it here, I see, right? Okay, yeah? What do you got? You don't have to do it. Yeah, you're like, chicken Kiev. Kiev?
Yeah.
Like is in Russia?
Chicken Kiev.
Ukraine? Okay, what do you got? Good steak. Hamburgers.
Mommy's food.
Mommy's food. Brisket with cheese. Straight up. Pasta. Cholent. Google. Yoili's cholent on Thursday night. Yeah? What do you got?
I'd say fried plantain or rice and peas.
Holy cow, I never heard of any of this. You guys know what this means? My favorite is cardboard lali manani. It's a European, Russian, Japanese dish. It has beans and milk, and in my country we have cheese and stuffing with bananas.
You never heard of plantain before?
Pantef?
Plantain.
Plantain?
Plantain.
In America it's known as plantain. In Jamaica it's called plantain.
Plantain? What is it?
It's like a banana that you fry.
Oh, there really is a banana. I got that right. Oh, look at that. Okay, what do you like? What do you fry it with?
Oil?
Oil.
Pig fat?
Bourbon?
No,
Peanut oil?
probably could, but it's just oil.
Just straight up oil.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you got?
Steak and arugula.
Steak and arugula.
Yeah, not together.
Yeah. Can I get a little more chocolate on my steak, please? A little more. Yeah, cinnamon. Yeah, what do you got?
Crab.
What did you just say?
Crab.
crab.
I thought you said
Okay.
crab.
I thought you said feces. I don't know what you like. I love feces.
Only
Okay.
on Tuesdays.
What's that? What's that?
Salmon steak.
Salmon steak? So let's take a look and see. Who's got $20 on me that I could say back all of yours in order in less than a minute?
No.
No. No.
Have a try and review it at the end of the class.
What?
Is that gonna mess it up now? If I remember mine? It's called, it's a vegetarian tamka guy soup or something. It's like a coconut broth soup with lime and cilantro and
A little bit of meniscus. Throw in a
Okay,
tibia.
hold on. I gotta take this one.
Where's Kia?
No, do it at the end
Ukraine.
of class when you review.
Ukraine. See that? Not Russia. All right, here we go. So anyone think I can do it? You got your money out? Let me see if that's real first.
Oh, okay. The price just went down.
Okay, I'm not even trying. Okay, here we go. Anyway, I gotta one day figure this out. But anyway, so we got a lot of food here. Now, I want to know in terms of categories. My, by the way, steak. It's a medium well. Medium well. I like a medium well. And I don't like blood. I don't mind blood, but it's this thing in the Torah now that I eat. But anyway, the bottom line goes like this. Imagine, let's think for a moment, we'll put in different categories. There are different categories that we're talking about over here. Some of them were dairy versus meat. Some were vegetarian versus dairy and meat. If you want to throw in vegan there. What else? What are the categories?
Kosher, non-kosher.
Kosher, non-kosher. You didn't see the title, did you? All right, let's begin. And it goes as follows. I want to know, when we basically essentially said we have kosher versus non-kosher, are there any vegetarians in the room? Vegetarian? Okay. I apologize for the graphic nature of this class.
Go right ahead.
Are you okay with that?
Very.
All right, here we go. So let's say you take two cows, Bessie and Essie. They were twins, separated at birth. They meet up in a pasture, and one goes moo, the other goes moo, and they realize that they're siblings.
Can cows be twins? Is that?
It's a good question. We should look into it. In any event, in our case, they are. So what happens? You go ahead, and you take these two twin cows. One of them you slaughter according to the laws of Judaism, and you do everything else exactly the same as the other. Except the other one, let's say, instead of slaughtering it, you shoot it in the head, or you even slaughter it, but with a knife that wasn't the proper type of knife, which we'll talk about soon. Is there any difference between the two of them? And when I ask you that, I mean like any noticeable difference to you in terms of taste.
No.
Right? You take those two cows, they're exactly the same, except one you slaughtered according to Jewish law, the other you didn't. The rest you did the same. Took out the blood, you salted it, you did everything right. You cooked them on identical grills, identical spices, identical forks, and identical plates. Right? You even had a bib. They were identical. And they go out at the end, you go and you eat them. Different in taste? No. Smell?
Price.
Price? Now we're talking, because we know. Like a regular hot dog costs about, what, $1? And they throw in like fries, a drink, and a house. And when you buy a hot dog from a Jewish restaurant like KD, Kosher Delight in the city, which just closed down actually after 30 years. But sorry to disappoint you all, but the Manhattan branch, 30 years, have just closed down. The lease ran out. But if you go ahead and you buy that, you have to mortgage your house in order to get it, right? So that is true that there may be a price. But taste, smell, look, nutritional value, any difference?
No.
Answer is negative, right? There's no difference in any of these things. In which case, I want to try to understand, as a mismo, what's the difference? They're the same. So why is it you have one that's kosher and one of them that's not kosher? Right? What's the difference? Now, there's always going to be someone who says, well, God said so.
It's a hope.
So that's always an exciting idea, and it always makes you feel very excited to do God's will when he says, dance, monkey, dance, right? Doesn't that get everyone excited? Isn't that your favorite answer? Why do we do this? Because God said so. Now go do it. Everyone gets excited by that, right?
No.
Or it kind of turns you off and you don't get excited at all. So let's try to understand what's the reason behind it. What do you think? What have people heard? That's one. Give me another idea. What have people heard the reason for kosher?
I've heard the healthy, like pigs are unhealthy and unclean.
Okay,
Try and
so
rationalize
you said
all of
two. Health, cleanliness. They can come together, but they could be different. Yeah, give me another
Yeah.
one.
Prevent disease.
Well, that would probably fall into the health, right? Cleanliness issue. But let's say it anyway. Disease. What you got?
think, don't you want to minimize the suffering of the animals you slaughter, like with a sharp knife or whatnot?
Interesting. So the idea is that kosher versus non is the amount of pain that you're causing the animal. Okay, what do you got?
It will restrict the amount of social interaction between us and non-Jews.
Okay. What is this?
Love.
Fake love. Let's get rid of love. Alright, so now we have like this. We said, so far, clean, healthy, disease, pain, interaction. How would I write that?
Separation.
Separation.
Yes. You can even say segregation. It's not too dirty a word.
Ooh. Apartheid. Okay, segregation. All right. Let's have the board. Okay, so now we have as follows. Yeah, we got all these reasons, and let's go through them. Let's go through them each one by one. Cleanliness, along with the lines, if I may say, disease. And you, Dafka, you specifically mentioned the pig. Now, interesting to note that animalologists will tell you, otherwise known as a zoologist, will tell you that the pig is actually one of the more clean animals. The only time you see a pig rolling around the mud is to cool itself off. The reality is pigs are very clean animals. But you want to get into the idea of, let's say, disease, like trichinosis, right? It's very prevalently found in the pig. First of all, not as much anymore. Second of all, chickens can also get trichinosis. In which case, so what do we see so far? That it can't be that, because the chickens also wouldn't be. How about health? Because we all know donuts are not kosher. Oh, wait, they are. So what do we see? Unless they're smeared in pig fat, Krispy Kreme. Anyway, the idea is that what do we see? So we've knocked off the idea of clean, disease, health. Another clean aspect, let me ask you, has anyone here licked a cow? If you have, please do not answer that question. Yeah, but the idea is they're pretty, calm down there, they're pretty dirty until you clean them. Every animal is dirty. How about the idea of pain? All right, that maybe has something, and we're going to get into that. I'll explain that in a moment. How about the separation / segregation? That does have an impact, but not necessarily. Because then they could also just get kosher food for you. Right? First of all, overwhelming majority of the things that you buy in a supermarket are kosher, right? Overwhelming majority, again, unless you go into Joe's Fatty McFat Pigs restaurant, right? Then it's probably not there, but it's also a restaurant, and it's signed by Fatima P-H-A-T, right? Hey, there's one thing you understand. So the segregation thing, separation, it could be not necessarily. The pain thing is a real deal, Now, that's a very interesting concept. Is anyone here that knows anything? You know stuff. Okay, do you know anything about animals, though, in terms of the anatomy of animals? Any veterinarians in here?
I grew up on a ranch.
What?
I grew up on
Grew up on a ranch? Okay.
In
So
Philadelphia.
That's something.
in Philly,
The
it's
country.
like, hanging out in
There's
Philly,
hillbillies
get
out
off the subway, and there's a cow. Anyway, the idea is like this. Even if you ranched it, you still probably will not be familiar with what I'm about to tell you. But you might be, though, and it goes as follows. That is very interesting. When we go ahead, everyone knows the organization PETA, Hummus, everyone knows what I'm talking about? So PETA have a lot of things against the way animals are dealt with. And you know what? They're right with a bunch of stuff. Like in terms of the terrible things, and I want to tell you, I watched a video on YouTube. This is the shock. When you look at a YouTube video and you go to the page and you have the YouTubes, I know none of you do it, Chatz Shalom, but you all do it. So when you go there and you see, it says that the video is 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Do you watch it?
Yeah.
Right? How about 1:30? You watch it?
Yes.
How about 12 seconds? Do you watch it?
Yeah.
Okay. How about 45 minutes? Do you watch it?
No.
Very rarely, right? We watch very quick. Now you end up watching about 6 hours worth, right, of 2-minute videos. But nobody wants to watch a 45-minute video. So I accidentally clicked on something, and it was about vegetarians, actually. It's about a guy who was pro-vegetarian. I'm not getting, this is not my topic, but I just want to point out what he was saying. 99% of his argument was an emotional argument that was based off very specific ideas. And I agree with that 99%. The thing I disagree with is his 1%, which he didn't talk about, so I don't know what it was. Yeah? But I could tell you that what he did is he showed videos of the torture that some people put animals through. Has anyone ever seen these videos?
Yes.
They are absolutely sickening. and I'm saying this is not a joke, disgusting, the things that they do to animals. You have some guys who are literally beating up animals, punching them in the face, taking pitchforks and stabbing them, right, and doing all these terrible things. And that's why you should be a vegetarian. And I said, listen, you're right. That's wrong. That shouldn't be done. Not only does Judaism say that this shouldn't be done, but it's prohibited. Okay, machlok is b'mitzvah d'oraisa d'rabbanan, but let's go along. There's at least a shita that says it's d'oraisa. For those who don't know what I said, that's fine. I'll now explain. The Torah itself tells us that this is a prohibition to cause pain to animals. Unnecessary pain that's just given to animals. We go to such a distance that what? That let's say you're going to eat food and your animal needs to eat food, you have to give your animal food before you feed yourself. You want to know how far it goes? It goes to the extent that let's say you washed your hands for bread. And you're not allowed to do anything in between eating the bread and feeding the animal. If you realize, you stop and you feed your animal. If you made the bracha hamotzi, check it out. But you didn't yet eat the bread and you realize you didn't feed your animals, you go feed your animal. We give such precedence to this concept. Of course you're not allowed to treat them with disrespect. That's the only discussion I just want to point out over here. That if your whole purpose of being a vegetarian is the idea that there are people that are cruel to animals, of course there are people that are cruel to animals. And it's terrible, and it's wrong, and it's bad, and it's off. But the idea, you take a look at what happens in terms of when we go ahead and we slaughter an animal. Now, this is an amazing thing I'm about to tell you. So PETA comes along, and one of the things that they point out is like, look at the pain that the animal goes through. After you shech an animal, after you slaughter an animal, if you've seen it before, they like shake all over the place. They go like crazy. Look at all the terrible pain they're going through. I want to tell you a story. In high school, I played guitar. I had a hobby. I was a guitarist. My friend had a hobby. He used to like to watch dead people. Everyone has their thing. He worked for what's called the Chevra Kadisha. Chevra Kadisha literally translates as the Holy Brethren. It's talking about the burial society. There's an idea in Judaism that if somebody passes away, that we try to bury the body as soon as possible. But if for some reason we can't bury the body, there's always someone staying with the body, and usually saying Tehillim, psalms of some sort. So my friend told me it was one night he was watching a body, because we always try to keep somebody saying psalms, right? And there he was, and it was a dark night, as most nights are. It was raining, and he was reading his psalms, and all of a sudden, oh, be careful with the thing. Oh, take the chair, take it. All of a sudden, what happens? He looks over. I put it on my knapsack. All of a sudden, what happens? He looks over, and the body goes like this. This is a true story. The body goes, and his arms jump up. He freaks out. He's like, oh my gosh, it's alive. And it turns to him and goes, no, I'm not. I have an idea that part's not true. But what happened? What was that? Why does arms do that? It's called rigor mortis, right? What's rigor mortis? That's after a while when the body starts to break down, we have different chemical reactions that are going on in the body, where they've had cases literally where bodies were lying down and they stood up. Stood up, literally stood up. Oh my gosh, it's alive. You cut off a chicken's head, it starts running. Call an ambulance. Answer is, it's dead. When they slaughter the animal and the animal's going like crazy, that's called in Hebrew mifarcheset, right? It's like a seizing type of thing. And that's not alive. The animal's already dead. But I want to tell you today how far it goes. What's your name? Netanel. Netanel brings this out, this point, and I just want to bring it out strongly. And that is, when you slaughter the animal, what happens? There's a game that's played in America today. I don't know why they call it a game. It's pretty messed up. It's called the passing out game. Anybody familiar with this game?
Yes.
I think they call it like California Dreamers. They have different like names for it. Essentially, you know what I'm talking about? Essentially, I'm not telling you how to do it. I don't want any lawsuits, but there's something that you do. And then a person passes out. Has anyone ever played this game? Just you and me? You don't know what I'm talking about at all? Good. You're in a good place. I'll tell you. I'm not telling you how to do it. But there's something that a person does, a certain breathing and a certain pushing movement, and then the person who's doing that movement ends up passing out. Okay, a lot of college fraternity people do this and they play this game. And it's, like I said, it's not an England thing, right? It's a stupid American thing, yeah? As you could have known by now. Nobody queues up for this. Yeah, so what happens is I played this game. Why did I play it? I did it completely by accident. You ask, how does one by accident play this game to pass out? Answer is, I didn't know what was going on. I'm riding my bike and my friend stops me. He's like, "Hey, want to play this game?" I'm like, "Is everybody doing it? I'll do it." All right, so what happens? You have to do this whole thing, and I did it. I didn't even know it was going to happen. Thank God I was wearing a helmet as I was riding my bike. He thought I was kidding. When he did whatever he did, there's chairs in the other room if you want to bring it in, right next door. So what happens? He literally goes ahead, he does this thing on me, and I pass out. He thought I was kidding, so he didn't catch me. I fell, I hit my head, but I was wearing a helmet. All I know is a Friday afternoon, I open my eyes, I'm lying on the floor, I'm like, "Is it Shabbos yet?" That was like my first thought. Like, I had no idea where I was or what happened. Now, how does the game work? How does it work? Who knows?
Cuts off circulating air to the brain.
That's right. It cuts off the oxygen supply to the brain, essentially. Now watch this. For the our family zoologist has left, a resident zoologist, but I'll tell you as follows. Anyone here learned about the anatomy before? Yeah. Are you familiar with something called arteries?
Yes.
Okay. So anyone else? All right. So there's the two of you. So there's something called arteries. It's part of our body, and the arteries are where the blood pumps from the heart to the rest of the body. Veins come from the rest of the body back to the heart. That's I don't want to get too detailed, but if anyone wants some interesting information, come afterwards. But the idea is basically that we have two arteries that make it from our heart to our brain. Where are they? Where are they? Be specific. Where are they?
Sternum.
Right? There. Oh, well, the sternum is where the heart is, mid-sternum.
And it comes up.
That's right, but coming down, where does it actually go? Right over here, right around the side.
Artery.
That's why carotid, right? The carotid arteries by the jugular. That's if a person wants to check somebody's dofik. You want to check their pulse. You check over here. You check over here, they might be dead. But if you check over here, you might get something, right? And that's that it pumps it up, and that's where you have the arteries going to the brain. That's why if you want to choke someone, make sure you get a good hold. Because if you only have one side, then the oxygen will still be going to the brain. Okay? Let's move on. So the idea is as follows: how to kill someone in 2 steps or less. All right, but the idea. What?
We learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Can't get it. Where do I hold? Right? Anyway, the idea is to knock off the supply of oxygen to the brain. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's something called the circle of Willis. The circle of Willis is that in the brain, the way that the arteries go around, come up to the side, move up, and go around the brain in a circle. And that's where they connect, right? They connect, come back down on the side, called the carotid arteries. Now, here's the interesting part. When you slaughter an animal, the knife has got to be how sharp? Very is correct. It's got to be very sharp. And you have to check the knife before you actually end up slaughtering an animal. You check the knife a number of times. There are 2 classic ways to do this. The most obvious one is, anyone know?
Nail.
By the nail. You take a knife, you sit it on your fingernail, make sure you have one, otherwise you're going to sit it on your fingernail, and you slowly go down. Since the nail doesn't have any nerve endings, but it's still connected and has feeling, you'll notice if there's any impurities in the knife at all, right? If there's even a little impurity, and excuse me for the vegetarian, but you can handle it, if there's even any impurities at all in this knife, then you're not allowed to use the knife. Why? Because it has to slice. It can't rip, pull, or tear. That means if there's even a little impurity in the knife, it can grab the skin and be ripping it or pulling or tearing it, and then it would render the animal not kosher. It's got to be super sharp. The classic way is the knife on the nail. The other way is, anyone know the second way?
Look at the light.
No. Who said it? Another way is with your tongue. Not recommended, but there are those that do it. You slowly, don't try this at home or anywhere else for that matter, but go ahead and slowly down the tongue and you will feel it. If you do it too quick, you end up like that Greek goddess, right? What was it with all the tongues? Anyway, the idea is, nonetheless, is that you go ahead and do it on the tongue. It's got to be ridiculously sharp. Therefore, has anyone here ever cut themselves with a knife that was really, really sharp?
Yeah.
How does it feel for the first seconds?
It doesn't hurt that much.
Nothing. You don't even feel it. When you slice, if you cut your finger with a knife which is really, really sharp, my father-in-law bought a knife. It's a German knife. You bought a German knife? How dare you? I know. Don't go to Spain either. But anyway, the idea is that, or anywhere else in the world. Pretty much. You bought from France, Italy, Spain, Italy, France. We exiled from all of them, yeah? America. Anyway, the point is that he has this German knife. It cost him $300. It's a German knife. He uses it for sushi. right? And it is awesome. The thing cuts like ridiculous, and he keeps it. It cuts like a knife, right? And he puts it back, and it feels so right. And then he puts it into this thing, and he puts it away. It's so sharp. You cut yourself, you don't even feel it. I did this once. I was taking my knives, I was converting them. I was taking them in the mikvah, and what happened was, is I cut my finger, and all of a sudden I saw red. And I was like, what is that? And then I realized I didn't notice. I cut my finger right through. It was so sharp. The knife is so sharp that when they slaughter the animal doesn't even feel it because it's so sharp. The only time they feel it is a couple seconds later when it catches up and the messages are sent to the brain. There's only one problem, and this is fascinating. Kosher animals, when their circle of Willis, when the arteries come down and they meet up where? Anyone want to guess? They meet up in one spot, right by the jugular. Which means when you slaughter an animal, a kosher animal, as opposed to a non-kosher animal, i.e. a pig, which has one airway going from, or one supply of oxygen coming from here, another one coming from the back of the neck, which means you're only cutting off one supply that's still coming. When you go ahead and you slaughter a kosher animal, you're cutting off the supply to the brain, and it's so sharp that they don't even feel it, which means they're dead before they're even dead. What you got?
What if you can cut both at the same time?
That still wouldn't change anything. And I'll tell you why. Because, I'm saying, Nathaniel? Okay, so Nathaniel, even though you may be correct that scientifically it's accurate, that's not what the Torah says. The Torah does not say the reason why we shecht an animal or slaughter an animal there is because of the least amount of pain. It doesn't say that. You know what it says? I'll tell you. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I want to bring you an analogy first. Now let me be clear. An analogy is something which is similar to that which I'm trying to get across, but it's not the same thing. For if it were to be the same thing, then it would be it, and not an analogy. Is that clear? Therefore, in every analogy, there's a flaw, because if there was no flaw, it would no longer be an analogy. With that intro, let's begin. If I let go of this, what will happen? It will fall, right? Let's try it. Look at that. Thank God I caught it. All right, it's the idea that I usually do with my glasses, not my phone. But okay, yeah, you catch it. It falls. Now, why does it fall? Gravity. Why? Okay, good. So you just threw out the words and it goes like this. If you ask any scientist in the world, why gravity? What will they tell you? Say? Answer is, if they're honest, if you ask any scientist why to anything, they'll always tell you the same answer. I don't know. Because science doesn't deal with why. This is a bit semantics, I'll explain though. Science doesn't deal with why. Science deals with how. In other words, we have certain givens that exist in the world. Why are those the givens? I have no idea, but let's see how they work. Right? Speed of, what happens when you drop something, so we have gravity at 32.2 feet per second, depending on the velocity and the speed, etc., for those who've done physics. But the idea, nonetheless, is that still we have our given. If anybody remembers back to like 6th grade mathematics, certain parts of mathematics called logic. If you remember, there was your given, then. Anybody remember this idea? Maybe some of you, right? The rest, I guess not. You must have failed. The idea is what? This is your given. What's your given? Green, blue, sunglasses, phone, 17, whatever. That's your given. Then, etc. We have a given called gravity. Why? As was mentioned, what's your name? I'm sorry?
Scott.
Scott mentioned the laws of nature. That's why they call it the law of gravity. The law of gravity. Comes along our Philadelphia compadre, and he tells us the following idea. Why kosher?
Because of cleanliness and
No, who said it before in this session? Didn't you say it? I thought someone said it over here. When asked, the first time I asked, why
I
kosher?
said chok.
You said
That's
chok,
the first
right?
thing I said.
What does the word chok mean?
A commandment given by God without a specific reason.
What does
that
it
man
mean? Like
can
translate it
understand.
literally.
Law.
That's correct. Excellent. The word chok means a law. A law that is given to us without a reason. Excellent. So if you look in the Torah, why kosher, it doesn't tell us. As opposed to, let's say, why do we eat that delicious cardboard every March, April, right? Called matzah. Why do we eat matzah on Passover? Come on, people.
It's a law.
What?
To remember the unleavened bread.
Lunu. Right? Why do we eat it?
To remind us of our ancestors who left Egypt.
Keep going.
and they didn't have time to prepare.
Rapido, right? Why do we eat matzah? Says the Torah. The reason we eat matzah is ki b'chipazon, because we left Egypt in a hurry and they didn't have time for the bread to rise. Why do we sit in a sukkah, on the sukkot, tabernacle, right? Why do we sit in those huts? Says the Torah, because God sat us in huts. Yeah, machlokas and Megillah, but yeah, it could be another kalva. And then the last is what? Because we sat in huts. So we see there's reasons. What about kosher? What's it? It might be broken. That might be why. So the idea is, why is it? It is muy caliente. Woo! Yo tengo calor. Il fait chaud en français. I am hot in English. But the idea goes like this. Yeah. Why is it? Yeah, maybe open the windows. Open the door. Right. So why is it that we? Oh yes. Why
Don't
is
do it,
that
you
we
have a lot to live
I
for.
know. It's kosher. Anyway, so why is it when we talk about the laws of gravity? The Torah tells us what's a chok. We have a mitzvah called kosher. It's a chok. It's a law that's given that we don't have a reason for. Why is it when I talk about gravity? How many here, before you go to sleep at night, you're about to fall asleep and you go, gravity. Why? You function, right? You go on with life. But when I tell you, the Torah says eat kosher. Why? Because. Forget it. I'm done. Why do we freak out? Yeah? It's a law. It's a law that exists. See, you'll tell me, because one you have to live with, the other you don't. Okay, you got the flaw of my analogy. But the point, nonetheless, is what do we see? Was that mutter? You're allowed to throw a yarmulke? Oh my goodness. The answer is yes. All right. So what we find is what? We find is that a person goes ahead, and we got all nervous and all whatever. But the idea is, what do we have? There's something called a chok. A law given without a reason. Without begs the obvious question.
Without a reason we understand.
Excelente. It's a law that's given to us that we do not have the reason. That doesn't mean that there is no reason. It just means that the reason was not given to us. As a matter of fact, even Solomon, King Solomon, the wisest of all men, Chacham Mikol Adam, Shlomo HaMelech, Kvodo Be'atzmo, Mahu Amar, what did he say? He said, I tried to understand, I sought out wisdom, but it was distant from me. And what was he referring to when he said it was distant from me? He was referring to the para aduma, the red heifer. And the sages tell us that one of the reasons we know that is because the words vehi rechoka are the same numerical value, gematria, of para aduma. He did not know the reason for the red heifer, whatever that is. But I want to still jump into the point here. So then let's ask this obvious question. I had a student whose name was Yasale, okay? Yasale, Yasale. Grew up a Hasidic mensch, yeah? Hasidic boy. And he had it all. Shaved head, boingers, penguin suit, the whole thing. Now what happened? Yosele did not speak a word of English until he was 5 years old. He only spoke it, the Mama Loschen, yo Yiddish. Sprechen de Yiddish. That doesn't mean anything. But he spoke Yiddish. Now what happened to him? One day he made a mistake of asking his rabbi in Yiddish, how do we know there's a God? And his rabbi said, and he gives him a splachen, the same word I said before, still doesn't mean anything. He gives him a zetz, a patch, a klep, a hit, he smacks him and says enough. And okay, and he's really turned off by that, but he was only like 9 years old, so he didn't know what to make of it. When he was 15, though, he totally chucked the whole thing, chopped off the boingers, said, nobody call me Yosela, now you call me Joe. And there's no talking to me in Yiddish. You speak to me in Yiddish, I'll kill you. So I met Joe when he was about 18 years old, and when he was on his way back. He was on his way back, and he was checking out Judaism again. And I used to mess around with him. I always made sure there's a table between us, and I'd be like, Yosele, was machst du? Right? I'd speak to him in Yiddish. He'd be like, I'm going to kill you. I'd be like, all right, relax. Joe. How are things doing, Joe? And you have to understand who he was. He's not an ignorant guy. He wasn't a guy who didn't know anything. He was the kind of guy that if I needed to know where something was in the Talmud and the Gemara, I would say, Joe, where is it? He'd tell me exactly what page it's on, what the commentary said, and all the details while he ate his cheeseburger. Okay? He understood it all. He just wasn't connected. But at the time he was coming back, so I said to him, I'm like, Joe, how's it going? He said, it's going pretty good. Those mitzvos that I understand, the commandments that I understand, I keep. those that I don't yet understand, I don't keep. Is that a logical statement? Is it a logical statement to make?
No.
Is it a logical statement to make? How do you live your life? Don't get all Jewish on me. I'm asking how you
I
live
try to
your
lead a
life.
good life.
Do you live your life that you do things besides Judaism? Do you do things when you understand them or when you don't understand them?
I just do them. I don't put too much time into them.
You're a scary guy. I don't want to know what that means. Yeah? All right. But the concept is very simple. How do most of us live our lives? That which we understand, we go along with. And even then, we don't necessarily go with it. Yeah? Let alone if we don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Why the heck would I do it? And that's a normal reaction that people have. Doesn't make sense in this, no. But this is what we have to get. He says, that which I don't yet understand, I don't keep. So I said to him, Joe, you might as well stop now. Not a smart thing to say to Joe. He said, okay. I said, no, don't really stop. What I mean to say is, there are some mitzvos that we have that you will never know the reason to. In which case, if you are basing it off, that which you understand you do, and that which you don't understand you don't do, then that means you're wasting your time. Because you're only doing now, you're never going to end up doing everything. Then Joe asked the obvious question. So why is it that God would give us commandments that we don't understand the reason for? Back to our dance, monkey dance. Just do it. Nike. We all know what happened to Tiger Woods.
He did it.
That's right. And he got messed over with a golf club to the back of his car. And a fire hydrant.
Shot with his own weapon.
Because he doesn't know. Yeah. Would have been worse if it would have been like Jack Nicholson or something like that, right? But the idea is, what's going on? Why, people? Why would the Lord give us commandments that we do not understand? Scott, with 2 T's?
Yes.
What do you say?
I really don't know.
It's a great answer and an honest one. Anyone else? Hit it.
Maybe because God is infinite and will never begin to comprehend what He has in mind for us.
So in other words, what you're saying is, I have no idea to answer that question because it's God. Good. That is also an answer. What do you got?
Test our faith in His Word,
What you mean?
just to see if we'd be willing to follow, if we really trust Him that much that He's willing to follow whatever He says.
Okay. What do you got?
I've heard the analogy of
What's an analogy?
I think
I was gonna
we
say,
already
go
got
on.
that. Yeah, of like a kid playing with scissors, right? You make a law, you don't go near sharp objects when your kid's small. And maybe it's the same thing. Obviously, you want to play with everything in the house. You want to have free reign, but your parents know what's better.
So this analogy is more along the lines of the sages when they enact edicts or decrees why we do things, right? That they put up safeguards that someone doesn't hurt themselves. But over here, we don't even know what the hurting yourself is. Yeah, what did you want to say, Ezra?
I was gonna say that basically like similar to what other people were saying.
What's your name?
Hello.
Hillel? You like Hillel? What are you gonna?
What I was gonna say is it doesn't make sense if he's choosing to follow only the ones he understands, because then, if you say, okay, I believe there's God, but only if He gave me reasons, then he's only doing it for himself. Oh, I understand that Shabbat is rest. I want to rest. I'll do it. But I don't like that because it doesn't have a reason that I comprehend. So therefore, I'm not gonna do it. Well, if you believe in God, you're either gonna do it for God or you're not.
What's your first name again?
Josh.
Josh.
If you're not
Hillel.
gonna do it for God, then why do any mitzvah?
Is that right? Is that what you're along the same
It
lines?
makes you a better person.
So let's figure this out. It goes
So
very
don't
simple.
do it because of religion. Do it for philosophy. Do it for Aristotle.
That's fine.
No, so listen to this. Listen to this. Very simple. Josh, excelente, correcto, right? It goes like this. Listen to the following question. I'm going to say it normally. You know what? I'm going to say it very specific for those who have a problem with the way that... This is what ends up happening. I'm going to say a sentence. You're going to give the wrong answer because you misunderstood my sentence. So now I'm going to say the sentence very weird. Then you're going to be like, that's weird. Then I'll say it normal, and then you'll misunderstand me, and then I'll explain why I said it weird. Is that clear? Here we go. If one follows the laws of the Torah because they understand them, does that necessitate... Does that have to be... If one follows the laws of the Torah because they understand that, does that have to mean... Oh gosh, I don't know how to word it. I'm going to word it normally. Does that mean that means to have anything to do with God? Does it have to have anything to do with God?
No.
Now, does it necessitate having anything to have to be doing having to do with God?
I guess not.
The answer is no. Yeah? If you follow the commandments because you understand them, does that have anything to do with God? It could have something to do with God, but does it have to have anything to do with God?
No.
Answer is absolutely not. And that's exactly what Josh was pointing out. And I think, Hillel, even that's not what you were saying, that's what you were saying. Yeah, that's, those teachers who say that, the worst is when it's, okay, whatever. Anyway, the point is what? That's what you're saying. Meaning, if I follow the commandments because I understand them, does that have anything to do with the Lord? The answer is not necessarily. That's because of me. I'm following it because I want to follow it. And if I don't want to follow it, that means that I'm not going to follow it. If I keep Shabbos because I feel so nice with family, and kosher because, I keep kosher because I feel like I'm skating on an ice rink that a Zamboni just came off of in the springtime with daisies floating through the air. What happens when that machine breaks and it's the winter and it's rough, the daisies die? Do you still keep kosher? Do you get it?
No.
When you're following something because you understand it, we have no idea if that has anything to do with God. Therefore, we have commandments that are given to us that we don't understand the reason for, to show what? God, I am following this commandment. You know why? Because you told me. I have no idea why I should be doing it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to do it because you told me to do it. Therefore, that's a Gilui Milsa, as we call it, a revealing factor, that all the other mitzvahs that I'm doing because I'm doing it for you, not because for me. Now, let me tell you something. I don't know if you've ever had this question before, but if you take a look in your lives, what is it that we usually do? We usually do things that we want to do. We usually connect with things that make sense to us. We have a harder time doing things that we don't want to do and that we don't connect with, and that's normal. However, if that's the way that you're living in Judaism, that means that it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with God. Therefore, we have commandments that are given called chukim that we don't have a reason for. Truth is, if you look in Leviticus chapter 11, verses 43 through 45, you will see that it does connect something called kedusha, spirituality, holiness, or separation, right? There is such a distinction about what happens because of it, but that doesn't explain that's the reason. So therefore, what have we got, my friends? What we've got is that even the commandments that we have reasons for, I'm sorry to get it yet. The base even commandments that we have reasons for, don't be so sure those are the reasons. Well, if that's the case, Friedman, then why do we have reasons for any commandments? Let's just have commandments without any reasons. You hear that? If the reason we're doing it is ultimately to connect to God, and it's because God's telling us and He knows what's best for us, and therefore we're going to do that, then just say do it. Why do we have to say any reasons for anything? Okay, that's one answer. I want to share with you another one. Another one goes like this. The reason why we have reasons that are given for commandments is because we're not robots. We also have emotions. We also have feelings. Which means, if I tell you just do it, or I explain to you and you get that and it makes sense to you, which one are you going to do with more of a fervor? Which one are you going to do with more passion? Clearly the one that you have an understanding for. And that's why they say, when we say, how do you say reasons for mitzvos in Hebrew? Anyone know? Reasons for mitzvos.
Ta'ameh ha-mitzvot.
Ta'ameh ha-mitzvot. That's the reason for a mitzvah. But there's another word that the word ta'am means. What does that mean? The word ta'am means taste. So God gives us reasons for mitzvahs in order to have a taste. That means in order to appreciate it, to actually get something out of it. And that's why I actually heard by Rabbi Nimmer from Berkowitz that if you can go ahead and you can find the reason that you feel good about and you want to connect it to a mitzvah, go for it. If that helps you, no problem. But don't let it be the reason. Because if that's the reason, when you don't feel that way, then it's over and it's finished. So what have we got, my friends, again? Bottom line is you have to understand. We don't really need reasons for anything. If God's telling us to do something, now this goes back to the original, that what? Yeah, because God said so. But that doesn't sit well with anyone, just to say God said so. What if I explain to you the reason what that is because ultimately we want to connect with God. God knows what's going to be the best thing for us. Even if we never understood what it was, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. I.e., acetaminophen. Does anyone here understand and know how those who don't know what that means, I'll give you a generic name, Tylenol, right? The main active ingredient in Tylenol is acetaminophen. How does it work? Don't tell me, but if you know, raise your hand.
Wizardry.
Do you know? You know how it works? You know how it works? The rest of you don't know? How does it work?
It
inhibits certain enzymes that allow you to feel pain.
It inhibits certain enzymes that allows you to feel pain. What do you say?
It thins out the blood.
Things out the blood. Is this? Are you debating, or are you saying the same thing?
I guess there's different uses.
There's different
And
uses,
there's different
different effects.
Outcomes.
Both.
Thins out the blood and release pressure.
So I'll tell you the reason, and that is I have no clue either. But anyway, the idea is maybe it does that, maybe it does that. But even if you never know why, it still does the job. What about placebo effect? You're right. There is such a thing called placebo effect. But I'm putting aside that idea. If a person didn't know that you're giving a medication, like a baby that doesn't know, and then it gets better, what's going on? And I say, hey, I don't know what's going on. But the idea is that it works. Just because you don't understand the reason for a mitzvah doesn't mean that it doesn't have an impact on you. Doesn't mean that it doesn't connect you. As a matter of fact, specifically with kosher, Chazal, the sages tell us that when a person eats something not kosher, what that does is it creates something called timtum halev. Timtum halev means a blockage of the heart. And not in physical terms, in spiritual terms. It makes it harder for a person to be able to connect with his Creator. Interestingly, those who have the biggest problem with that statement are those who are eating non-kosher. Right? In other words, because we're having a hard time to be able to actually connect. So let's take it like this. I want to do just a quick recap of everything we did, end off with a couple of points, and then we're done. We started in the beginning by going through all the favorite foods and getting a little bit further understanding what's the difference between Bessie and Nessie ultimately. The answer is that there really is no difference. So then what is it? The answer is the reason for kosher, we don't know. It's a chok. Then why give the reasons? The reasons are something which give us a little bit of a taste, but at the end of the day, we don't need the reason in order to do it. If a person goes ahead and understands the Torah, and the reason following commandments of the Torah is because they understand it, that doesn't have anything to do with God. I eat kosher because it makes me feel good. I keep Shabbos because it's nice with family, I get whatever. But happens you don't have these things anymore, you're going to stop doing it, in which case you're showing by following a commandment that we don't know the reasons for, that I'm doing it God because of you, therefore all the mitzvahs are going to be falling into that category also. Sure, I understand. I'll be able to do it with more of a fervor now because I do understand it. But it doesn't take away from the fact that if I never understood it and I could do it. Tylenol works, even if you don't know that it's obviously enzymes or releases or it makes the blood thinner a little bit. That goes through the idea without causing any pressure restriction. So the idea is, what are we finding at the end of the day? At the end of the day, is you can follow mitzvahs even if you have no idea. But tamei mitzvahs, the taste of the mitzvahs, you want to actually connect and be able to get to it. Being that we're emotional beings, you want to be able to do it. The only way to do that is by actually going ahead and having an understanding of it. Okay, now that we got that, I want to end up with one point, a couple of points. And that's as follows. No, that was the other class. This one is just a couple points and then one idea. This is found in a book called Chorev. Chorev in Hebrew, in English they wrote Horeb. Chorev is one of the names of Mount Sinai. This is written by someone by the name of Shamshin Raphael Hirsch, Samson Raphael Hirsch. He lived in the 1800s. He fought valiantly against the Haskalah of the Enlightenment, the beginnings of the Reform movement. And he basically goes through a lot of the mitzvahs in the Torah, explaining reasons for them and giving them a background. He has a whole chapter on kosher. And if you take a look at page 331 in the English edition of Horeb, you will find the following idea. After 20 some odd pages of speaking about kosher, why we eat kosher and why we don't eat non-kosher. For example, don't mix milk and meat together. Why? Because milk is symbolic of life. It's flowing, it's movement, it's alive. Meat is symbolic of death. Therefore, we don't mix milk and meat. Does anybody like that answer?
Yeah.
No.
Did anyone like the answer? No.
I like the answer.
I did not.
Okay, whether you like it or not, it's irrelevant, because that's not what the Torah says, yeah? And he says, we only eat animals that have split hoof and chew their cud. How come? Because split hooves shows that they're non-predatorial, right? Nobody has a dream about attack of the killer sheep, right? It's lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Therefore, right, what happens, we all know when you go to sleep, you have wolves jumping over the fence. No, it's sheep, because they're chilled. And we are chilled. You are what you eat. Yeah, I'm a chocolate cake, right? Others are sheep. The idea is what else? That they chew their cud. What does that mean? They have 4 chambers and it goes through the stomach. They're chilled out. You want to eat something? No, I'm alright. I'm okay. I'm alright. I'm okay. You know what else something to eat. Right? They're okay. They're chilled out. They're non-predatorial. And you are what you eat. It's a nice answer. You like it, great. You don't, chuck it. At the end of the day, after giving 20 pages on this, he ends off with the following paragraph. It's only a couple pages. You can stay with me. Here we go. All these meditations are speculations, and perhaps flow from lack of insight into the essential nature of things. However that may be, one thing is certain. High above all human speculation stands the Torah, the law of Israel's life, eternal and immutable, like the laws by which the planets move in the sky and the grain of seeds grows in the soil. The same God who laid down the law, which nature of necessity follows, also pronounced the law which Israel is asked to follow of its own free will. Don't have to, it's up to you. And just like the laws of nature are unchangeable despite any opinion man may hold, so all speculations on the laws of the Torah can only be an enlightenment of our minds, but never the cause of their validity. For the causative causum of the laws of nature as well as the laws of the Torah is ... punto, 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 nakuda, 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 God. What that means is, ultimately, the reason why we follow any mitzvah is because God is telling us that this is the best thing for us. If you have some other thing that can connect you with it, go for it, but never let it be the base, because as soon as that falls away, then we never end up doing it. Any questions, comments, stories, jokes, attacks, verbal, non-physical? Tiz, bin, A, hit it.
So are animals, kosher animals, treated any better during their lives as well? Are they like free range, or you know what I mean?
You're asking me practically speaking when they go and they use it?
Other than death, are they treated better than not?
Other than death.
Right.
Other than the fact that we kill them. All right, so the answer is that would depend on the place. There are places that don't do the right thing. It doesn't make it not kosher, but it does mean they're doing the wrong thing. There are other places that they don't do that. And they treat the animals fine until they kill them, until they slaughter it. So that's where you have Peter going into all these places to find the terrible things that are happening. And you know what? That's all I'll agree. If you find those things that are wrong, no one's going to justify it. It's wrong. But the idea is it doesn't change it, and that doesn't mean that we say that that's okay. It's still something which is wrong.
It's hard to get like organic and kosher meat. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Right. So what do you do?
Buy a farm. That's a great question. I'm going to have to pass it on to my colleague.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you got?
Actually, there's like
Hold on, what do you have an answer?
about what?
His question?
Can you repeat?
Any kosher organic meat?
There is, I forget the name of it, but if you want, I can. A guy who ran my yeshiva a while ago, he and his wife buy meat that was specifically raised in there's a farm in Pennsylvania, I think, and they sell their animals to kosher slaughterhouses. And they did all the research into the farm themselves, and they hold very highly of it. If you want, we can
check it out. What you got?
I've heard that a Jew cannot be an ethical vegetarian, just practically.
A Jew cannot be what?
An ethical vegetarian, just a practical one.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, such a comes you have to bring sacrifices, you have to eat meat. So ethically, you cannot be, in theory, cannot be ethical vegetarian.
Therefore, you're just pointing that out.
No, just yeah.
All right, dangerous ground, but yes, there is such a concept that exists about that. What else? Yeah.
I have a theory for kashrut. I was wondering.
Hit it, baby.
If you've ever heard it. So, because I read this book, it's called Willpower, and the subtitle was Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength. Because there's like a lot of research been done about like basically there's two traits in childhood that later on predict success later in life, and the number one trait is intelligence, but the second trait is like self-control and willpower. And later in this book, it was saying how like it pointed out how Jews are among the people who have the highest amounts of willpower, and I think like it ties into like kosher because like it's something that you have to do.
Control.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So every single day you're eating it.
There is such an idea that's talked about this. All these ideas that people gave, cleanliness, these are all brought down by commentaries, but never as the base. But it's definitely connected with it. Absolutely. You're in control of yourself, right? A person who, I'll tell you personally, now for me, it's a little bit different than some of you because I grew up observant. But I'll tell you personally, I have it's not a challenge for me. It's not a challenge for me to eat kosher and non-kosher because my whole life I did it. I'm in complete control over that. Yeah, sure. Does a Philly cheesesteak look enticing? Yes. But I'm not falling for it. Is it good? Yeah. All right, thanks. I appreciate that. Why don't you make it harder for me? I know, but the idea is that, no, it's not hard. And you know what? If I found out, whatever. Anyway, that they were kosher, I might go for it. But the point, are they anyone? All right, but what do we find? That yes, there's such an idea of control, self-control.
Like maybe you've raised your self-control so high because you've been brought up as
Right, so we have an idea, right? And that would apply to different people on different levels of control. All right, people, anyone else come up? If not, it's been a pleasure. See what I see. If I don't think, take care, and bye-bye.